I literally just want to bring this verse to your attention today because I recognize that in a room this size, in the month of November, when everyone is focused on being happy and being thankful and being cheerful, that there's someone in here who is having a hard time finding a reason to be cheerful. That in a room this size, there's someone who's finding it difficult to cheer up. That there's someone who's finding it very, very hard to find your space and your place of thanksgiving. But Jesus speaks to us in John 16 and verse 33 to let us know that there is nothing that you can't handle. See, the significance of this verse is marked by the fact that going through chapter 15 and chapter 16, Jesus talks about all the things that are difficult for us to handle. First, he tells us that the world will give you a hard time, that you will struggle in this life. Then he tells us that not only will you have a hard time in this world, but there will be times where you have a hard time in the church. The Bible tells us specifically that they will kick you out of church sometimes, that church folks will treat you crazy sometimes. Do I have any witnesses in the building? But Jesus brings us all the way down to John 16 just to remind us that through all of that he has overcome every last thing. He says, these things I have spoken. What are these things? That in this world you will have difficulty. In this world you will have hardship. In this world things won't go your way. He says, these things I've spoken to you for this specific purpose, that in me you might have peace. What is he saying? He said, I spoke to you these words so that you would find your peace in me and not in this world. That you won't put your peace in having a good job. That your peace won't be found in your bank account. That your peace won't be found in your status in this life. He says, I'm telling you these things so that you put your peace in me. That you won't find peace by just coming to church. That you won't have the expectation that the people sitting next to you on your pew are going to help you find peace. He says, I'm telling you all of these things so that your peace can be found in me. He then says, I'm going to tell you very honestly, in this world, you will have tribulations. In this world, it'll be hard sometimes. In this world, it will be difficult. There will be some dark days. But then he says something fascinating. He says, say but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. The word but here, in the Greek it is Allah. Say Allah. Allah. It is designed to help the reader to understand that everything that you've read thus far, that there's something coming that the circumstances, the things that you've read so far have not prepared you for. That everything you've been through, that all of the words you've heard, none of them have prepared you for what's coming next. In other words, when Jesus says but in our text today, he's saying nothing about what I've told you so far, nothing about what you've seen so far has prepared you to come to this particular conclusion. But I want to lay something on you to help you to understand how to move forward. He says, but be of good cheer because I have overcome the world. Be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. Now, it was a couple months ago, I saw this scene open before my eyes. I had never seen something so cute and yet so tragic. It was this kid. We were down at the D.C. wharf. We're walking around, enjoying ourselves at the end of the summer. And I see this very, very cute kid, 3 or 4 years old, this little boy. He's walking around, and he has no cares in this world. I mean, this kid is free. He is just absolutely free. Just a beautiful day. And in his hand, he had an ice cream cone. Now, he's walking around with his ice cream cone, enjoying his ice cream. And you could just tell by the way this kid is eating his ice cream that he is in a good place in life. Like you can just tell by the way he is enjoying this ice cream that this kid does not have to go to work in the morning. Like, you could just tell, like like he does not have to wake up early tomorrow. Like you could just tell. The way he was eating it, you could tell that he did not pay for that ice cream. It's like, man, like food is always so much better when you don't have to pay for it. Like, that's the way he was eating it. I could just tell by looking at him. It's like, man, this kid has no bills, like, whatsoever. No bills at all to be paid. There's no voice in the back of his head. Like, he's not contemplating whether or not this ice cream is going to go to his thighs. Like, do I deserve this? He doesn't have Dave Ramsey in the back of his head, like, you're still in debt. Why did you buy that? Like, none of that, None of that. He had none of that. He's just enjoying his ice cream. It's a beautiful scene, like the kind of scene you just want to take a picture of and enjoy this moment forever. But then tragedy struck. He tripped a little bit, and he caught himself, but the ice cream plopped onto the ground. Well, waterworks. He starts to cry and wail. And finally, his parents notice that he's crying there, and they look over, they see the ice cream on the ground, and he's there in tears. His dad picks him up and begins to walk. Now, something about this scene didn't set right with me. I had to think about it, but I finally realized that the reason why it didn't sit right with me is because when his father picked him up and he's shaking him and consoling him and telling him, son, cheer up, it's going to be okay, don't worry, little buddy. The thing that didn't sit right with me was that they walked that way, but I happened to know that the ice cream parlor was that way. It seemed to me that they were trying to get him to cheer up, that they were trying to get him to be in a good mood, but they had not given him an adequate enough reason to be in a good mood. They had not given him a good reason to cheer up. Well, you might feel like that every now and again. The circumstances of this life might lead you to feel as though you don't have a good enough reason to be thankful. Your story might be like some of these stories, except you aren't at the part where you can sit in front of a camera and say, but thank God that he brought me through. You might not feel as though you have an adequate enough reason to be thankful in this season. But I believe Jesus wants to give you a reason to be thankful today. The one reason you should be thankful is that Jesus has overcome it all already. And if Jesus has overcome it all already, then there is nothing that you can't handle. Not because of your strength, not because of my strength, but because greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. I can be thankful today because it is Christ in me that gives me strength to make it through anything, everything, every day. No matter what it is that you are facing, there is nothing that you can't handle. No disappointment that you can't handle. No letdown that you can't handle. No layoff that you can't handle. No valley that you can't handle. No pain that you can't handle. No loss that you can't handle. No failure that you can't handle. No diagnosis that you can't handle. No disease that you can't handle. No trial that you can't handle. No test that you can't handle, precisely because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. And if Jesus could overcome and Jesus is in you, then you can overcome. The reason why you can be thankful no matter what is because Jesus overcame for you. That's the word today. And as our musicians play, I just want to leave you with one thing in particular here. It's in a verse that comes just before. I recognize that there's some people here who already have their thankfulness worked out. You are already as thankful as you can get. But there are those of us who are still looking like, Lord, can you please help me to understand some things? In John 16 and verse 5, Jesus says that I must go away. He's talking to his disciples, and he tells them, I have to go away for a little while. And the Bible tells us in verse 6 that he's talking to his disciples, and he discerns something. He says, but because I have said these things to you, sorrow has filled your heart. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It is to your advantage that I go away. What Jesus is trying to help his disciples understand, and I think what he's trying to help us understand, is that there will be times where Jesus is doing things that you just don't understand. That the actions of God, the plan of God, you just don't understand. I just don't get it. There'll be times where, like, you expect for the world to treat you wrong. And we know we're all human, so you expect for the church at times to do things that you don't agree with. But there are times, it takes faith to still believe in God when he's solely responsible for your disappointments. When it is because of Jesus that you don't fully understand what's going on. But I think you have to understand this, that just as we sang earlier, even when you can't see his hand, you still trust his heart. What he's trying to help someone to understand is even when you don't see all of the obvious reasons to be thankful, trust that he is working for you behind the scenes. I learned this that day on the pier, on the dock, because you remember the ice cream fell over, the boy's crying, the dad picks him up, and they're walking in the wrong direction. And I was offended, like I'm offended for this kid. Like, man, like you couldn't go back and get my man another ice cream cone? Like, come on, you know. So I'm watching this scene unfold. But what I did not notice was that while the father was consoling the son, the mother had slipped away, went back to the ice cream parlor, and came back with an ice cream cone for that little boy. And when I saw the smile on his face, he just brightened up. And I learned a valuable lesson that day, that my optics, that my eyes, it's all limited. From my limited understanding, he wasn't doing enough. But that day, the people who loved that little boy were working things together for his good. And for someone here, I want you to know that even though you might not be able to see what's going on, God is working things together for your good. Even if you don't understand, you're saying, God, we're going in the wrong direction right now. He's working things together for good. If you're saying, Lord, what's going on in my life? It's in disarray. It feels like the whole world is against me. He's working things together for good.